Town Hall 113. It is March 20th, 2024. Let's move forward to the next line here. Hey, did you know what? There's two of us, and one of us is John, the other of us is Mike. And actually, we should add, well, no, I think Glenn has the next page with a giant picture of him, if I
Should be
remember right.
Glenn by
So,
himself. Yeah. He should have
yeah,
like a
because
statue.
he refused to be, like, we had to negotiate with him. He wanted only him on the first page. We said no, and then we had to put him on the second one. It's part of his writer.
Still
Oh,
waiting for the
Anyways, I'm
M&Ms to
John
show up.
Best.
part of the negotiation.
See,
See.
CEO, co-founder of Best Innovation Group. And we have Mike Lawson with us, who, if you're not watching C broadcast, which at this point, I don't know, every time you do a JC, you put out like 60,000 interviews.
At
I mean,
least.
how the heck do you get to editing all that? I just do not know.
It's a little bit of work,
You're
but it's fun.
you're a
It's all
hero.
fun. It's good.
Yeah,
I have a process.
you do. You do. Let's move on to the next slide and talk about Mr. Savati. Um,
I'm not sure what happened to Glenn's slide. We lost his slide
Oh
somewhere.
no.
Oh, you removed Glenn's slide. That's horrible.
Oh,
I have a story about that. I'll tell a quick
crushing.
story. So, my friend Kevin J. Anderson is one of the Dune writers. He goes to the Dune movie, and he's one of those where for big things like this, he'll rent out a theater. And I don't know if you knew this, but you could rent out a theater for like $200, and
For how
everybody can come
much?
watch. $200. I'm like, what?
200.
He goes, that's what, like, people like Tom Hanks or somebody wants to see a movie,
I
you
thought that
know?
was the cost of the
Yeah, I
popcorn.
thought that was the cost of popcorn and a drink. So,
That's
anyways,
half of
he
what it
watches
takes
the
to get my
movie.
family of four in there. So good Lord.
He watches the movie, and his name isn't in the credits.
Oh no.
And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but they said they were going to fix it. Legendary was, but I don't know. He's pretty upset. All right, well, let's talk about our sponsors. We've got CUNA Councils, which CUNA just did, which is now America's Creation. Hey,
Yep.
hey, Mikey, did you get a new logo from them, or are we still waiting for
Not
that to
yet.
happen?
No,
Yeah, okay.
oh no, I have the America's Crane. I have that logo, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe you can send it over to us because we've been
Okay.
asking for it and they just
Yeah.
laugh at us. So, but it's great to have those two together. And I thought GAC was well attended and went really well.
Over 6,000 people, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time, and I think a lot of good happened there. I really enjoyed Glenn and I's session, and actually we're having a repeat performance because
Are you?
people couldn't get in. There was only so
Really?
many chairs. A lot of people
Well,
were
your
turned
session
away.
was like this super top secret behind the scenes type of session that
Well, yeah, of course. I mean,
only the few, the proud, the brave got to go in. So well done on that.
that's because we were talking about grading issues, and we were also teaching people how to make meth. So those two
Oh,
things
well,
together made it
bonus.
a bit much. But anyways, Q is a great place to go. Go check it out. And let's talk about Illuma for a second. Illuma is just doing some amazing stuff. I was just talking to Melinda the other day.
I saw
They are
Melinda.
really driving this forward. And today is going to be very important to Illuma because we're going to talk about security today. We're going to talk about fraud. We're going to talk about things I've been seeing. That is our today's topic. And one of the things I know that would have helped, and it's interesting because I got an idea from Lynn. I want to throw it at him, but I haven't gotten there yet. But one of the things would have helped for some of the stuff I've seen would definitely be, I think, Illuma plus Member Pass. I think those two things together,
Ooh,
like something like Member Pass, that second piece would have
yeah.
really solved a lot of what I've been seeing. And I'm excited to announce Typhone. They've had been with us, but we actually have another relationship with Typhone. They are sponsoring the Innovation Club, so we are going on site to Connecta on
Oh,
April 23rd, 24th.
no way. You're gonna come
And
out this way.
yeah, I am. We'll be out in Manhattan Beach. I plan on
Okay.
finding you. I know where you are in San Diego. You can't hide from me. And yeah, and Mike, because we're out that way, I wanted to invite you as well. So we'll talk
Yeah.
about
Oh my
that.
God. Yeah, if I'm
Um,
around.
love to have you just come out and report on it,
That'd
just
be
for
cool.
interviews. But anyway, so long story short, Typhone is working with us, and what I'm super excited about, besides their Infinia platform, is they will be bringing their guy who used to work for Meta and was one of the principals in designing their LLM, which is the Llama LLM. So, and then on top of that, and even though they're not sponsors, but because he's coming as well, my good buddy Ty, who I got to see at JC, Ty Robbins is here, and Cinchi's going to be out there as well. So I'm super excited about this meeting. I can't wait to hear what Ty will ask this guy from Meta because that's going to be fun. All right, let's move it forward.
Good stuff.
Okay, today's giveaway is
That.
a smart control heating travel mug. What's cool about this, I got one in my car. Now, I will tell you guys, it did melt. It was like Chernobyl. It just melted all the way through the bottom and out the bottom of the. I'm just kidding. No, we're
That's
giving away this
intense.
cool travel mug. Very excited. We have some other cool giveaways that we're coming up with too. Keep your eyes on it. And this is sponsored by the William Mills Agency. I see Amber. Hi, Amber.
Amber's here.
Yeah, I don't know
Amber,
if we
say
got
hi.
Scott.
Scott's
Hey.
at AFT this week.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. Is that America's funniest, transactions or something?
Transactions, yes.
These are
I think
hilarious.
that is its unofficial name. Yeah.
I gotcha. But yep. So Amber's here to represent, and we will be giving this away at the end. So stay to the end. Must be present to win. And if you want your name into here, please put your name into the chat. If you're a vendor or someone else, you can't. The other side of it is please also, if you did retweet or any of the things that would get you an extra entry, you're welcome to let us know and we'll put you on there again. So go ahead and start putting your name out there and get your name in the drawing. All right, let's move forward. All right. So I'm going to share a story. I'll give you a little detail. I think Gary's on here. Gary Coates, you here?
I saw Gary.
I'm here, John.
I saw his name.
Right.
Yep.
So Gary and I are going to tell you a story. Gary called me. He said, look, he works at Wanda Credit Union. He called me and said, John, we're seeing a big uptick and we're not sure what's going on, but we've got these debit cards and different things. Now, here's the thing. My goal today is for all of you we believe that based on what we've been doing, this is at GAC, it was also in the IC, that this scam and this fraud is prevalent all throughout the industry. And it actually all started in October of 2023 is what we're finding. So what I'm hoping today is that some of you will share information. Gary's about to share information, but we want you to be careful. Don't share anything that, we want to be careful about giving away what we're going to do to solve it. For this particular one, we're going to cut out some of this so that if we do come up with solutions or something like that, it's not going to be posted to the web on what to do. And then I wanted to get feedback from an idea I had to see if people would be interested. I thought I might try to do this with Ty Robbins. So one of the things I realized is that it would be nice to have a database somewhere where you could go in and say, Gary could type in what they were seeing, this particular fraud, and check off a bunch of boxes. Like this one involves spoofing the credit union's call and calling a member directly. This one involves account takeover by using the forgotten password feature. These could all be little check boxes, plus you give detail. And then the idea is another credit union could go in and cross-reference that and say, I wonder if anybody else is experiencing this. So I call it CU scams. But if we could do that, what we thought is there'd be a free version where anybody could go in, input stuff, and see things. But if you want to see the comments on how people are resolving it and what they're doing, you're going to have to sign up and pay. And the reason you're going to have to do that is because we're going to want to validate who you are to make sure that the bad guys aren't in there, and it's going to cost us some money to build that. So I want to see how many people might be interested and would sign up. Just maybe put it in the chat. I'll let Melissa get that. So without further ado, Gary, tell your story.
Okay, so there was actually a few things that we were seeing. We were seeing some ATM fraud, and we actually had a guy. They were doing fraud in New Jersey and New York, and we're based in Oregon, so we don't have very many members there. So we basically shut off the ATMs in those two states. They actually flew a fraudster out here, and he was going to our ATM at our St. Helens branch. The guy was going at the same time of day, I think it was 9 o'clock at night, for multiple days in a row. We actually caught him and he got arrested. But we still don't know how he got the cards and was able to replicate them. We're still trying to figure that part out. But the main thing that John's talking about is separately from that, they started social engineering our members. So they were calling our members and somehow knew that they had a debit card with us. And they were asking them, saying that they were from the fraud department based on our Seaside branch. We don't have a branch in Seaside. And they were basically social engineering the member to give up their username for online banking, their password for online banking. If they had multi-factor set up, they would actually log in. It would send them the push, and they would tell them a story to get them to share what the passcode was. Once they were in there, they would transfer money around, and some of them were on mobile wallets, where they were able to get tens of thousands of dollars from some of our members. And so we engaged John, and we're trying to figure this out. We've put some education out to our members. So, do not share your information. We'll never ask you for your online banking login information, your password. Don't share any codes, stuff like that. And John had shared something that Ent Credit Union had prepared, and we're going to talk later with our marketing folks today about getting something similar posted on our website.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and give a little more detail. So once he brought that to my attention, I started doing what I do, which is, hey, I got to figure out how to catch up to these guys. So because it was NCR, they didn't have really a real-time database. So I wound up writing a whole lot of code. And I finally sort of tracked them down. And I'll talk about how I did that, but I was just going to show you a little bit about it. There's no member data in here other than just an IP address. And most of this right here is all bad guy stuff that they changed. So it doesn't matter. So a good example is this one. So you can see that they came in, they changed it. They changed the username to this. And what's interesting is you can tell when they do it via script, and you can tell when they do it via hand. Can anybody tell me how? How I know? Come on, Ty. Ty for the win.
How do you know?
Right here.
Timestamp.
See this capitalization? Their script is always capitalized. It camel cases it. And so when they do it by hand, they don't necessarily take the time to capitalize the first one. And that's what clued me into the script. And so I had to write all of these programs. And actually, one of the number one things I came back with was this. So I wound up doing this, which is the one-to-many unique accounts. So it's like every IP address that accesses more than one account. Well, I went through painstakingly all of these to make sure that they were either Plaid or MX or whatever. And I confirmed that all of them are real. Now that I've done that, we could literally run this job every day. And if a new IP address shows up at, say, over 5 or 6 accounts, that is a red flag right away. These guys were actually using T-Mobile accounts, but there was a lot of work that I did just to build all the code around how it all works and what it does. And I think I did like 3 nights of work until we finally caught up to them. And what we finally caught up was I was able to give Juana a file, and in that file, I was able to tell them all of these accounts are compromised. And so start calling ahead, get to them first. Don't let them call us. Let's call them. So then I was looking at it and I thought to myself, we're seeing this problem. I had another credit union told me they ran into it. So then I thought I would ask, oh no, it was Brian Bodell from TrueStage. He goes, this is going on all over the industry. So I decided to add it to our GAC conversation for Glenn, and every CEO raised their hand. And it was interesting because they were all looking around. So I think it's like we're all realizing that we are under attack as an industry all at once, which is new. So for this particular meeting, what I was hoping is that anybody else who's experiencing fraud, if they could share what they're seeing without giving too much detail. If you want help like what I just did, if you have NCR and they don't have a good analysis tool or something, just ping me, we'll figure it out. But I'm curious to find out what other people are seeing, if there's been an uptick, how it all looks, and if you want to share a solution or anything that you've done, that's fine. Like I said, we are going to heavily edit and redact this episode so that we're not sharing any of that out to the world.
The other scary thing we were seeing, John, is that they were spoofing our 800 number. So they were actually calling members from they got my number somehow, and they called me 3 different times. So I know
I sent it to
like
them
on my phone.
But no, what's interesting is, to his point, they got the debit numbers. Here was the way it worked. They got the debit numbers. They had the phone number. They would call spoofing the credit union, pretending to be Juana. And they would say, hi, you have some fraud on your account. We need to validate a few things. First, we'll validate to you. Does your debit card end in? And of course, it was right. Okay, now we need to know the username for your home banking. And like I said, we never asked for the password. So, the username seems pretty innocuous, right? Okay, now we're going to send you a code. What that code really was the forgotten password so they could get into home banking. So they get that and they go, okay, we're looking at your account. We see this and that. Really, they're looking at history. Remember, it says a few things. They go, okay, we got this. They hang up. Then they transfer as much money as they can into the DDA, into the checking. Now, it appears that they have an app both on Google and on iPhone. And it's probably one of these games that's in the App Store, but it's not really a game and nobody cares. Its whole purpose is to use either Apple Pay or Google Wallet to debit the money from the member. Now, before they did this transaction in home banking, they would go change the user's phone number. They would change their username. Interestingly enough, they would change their username, but it would just be slightly off, like with that capitalization, or they take the numbers off at the end. And then it would change the email address. They wait a day or two, they come back and do the debit, and then PSU, because that's who's running Gary's stuff, would call or text or something and say, hey, this is a big transaction. What are you doing? But because now they were texting the bad guy as opposed to the member, they would just say it's okay and send it through. They reply yes, and off it would go. 60,000 here, 20,000 there. What was also interesting about that approach was that the members were emailed every time something changed. So a member would get an email up until they changed up, and a text up until they changed the email address. But every time they changed something, an email would go to the old and the new in that session. But members didn't even see it. Not one person called us and said, I didn't change my phone number. That I had it, and we have notes on every single account. And we're talking 164 accounts I found. Go ahead, Ty.
So John, before credit unions, I did 20 years in and around the telecom industry. So there's a couple of things that you guys should all know that you can communicate to your members. The first one is that it is so easy to spoof your numbers, and there's nothing a credit union can do about it, that you need to definitely make them aware of two-way verification. That, this is what we'll never ask for, but, if someone calls you representing to be from the credit union, you feel free to ask them to verify who they are any which way based on your personal information that they should have. So, you should definitely enact that just as a policy, because that will keep people safe. The other thing is that it's not even just apps on the iPhone. I know everybody's seen this, but if you've been on any social media where it's like, John is best represented by the color purple, and he clicked on that and went to have them, quote, scan his social media, those simple things, what's your Irish name? What's your, if you were represented by a movie, almost all of those have some component of attempting to get PII that will help fraudsters. So you got to, you can start warning them about things like that. But really the key is to, start a policy of two-way verification with your members. And I know it sounds like a pain, but it's really the only way. So I'm glad you touched on it, John. But the one thing I can say is that I could spoof every one of your phone numbers right now with a line of code, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so you've got to be really present about educating your members.
And Ty, the other thing they were doing was actually spoofing the members number when they were calling our contact center.
And that goes two-way as well. So if they call you as a member and they're spoofing the credit union and you affirm that you are who you are, they've got your number, they know you're a valid member, and they will go right back the other direction. It is that simple. And in fact, when I say I can do it with a line of code, I mean I can do it with codes that I can type in on a standard phone to say that this is what my caller ID should look like. And I know the button sequences to push to do that myself because I worked for so long in that industry. So one thing is you can't get away from it. The second thing is that the only way is two-way verification in, from in all directions. You're gonna have to really think about that as a policy. I can't emphasize that enough.
And the other thing that we encourage them to do, if they didn't have a multi-factor set up in online banking, to set that up, but set it up with an authenticator app. So either Microsoft Authenticator or Google Authenticator, so that it's not an SMS text, because an SMS text that can be spoofed.
Now, the other thing I would recommend to everybody based on what you just said is that, and in my last credit union, we did this, we didn't allow PII change from digital banking without verification. And again, extra work and it's onerous, but if you start collecting and preparing your data correctly, you can re-automate that so that you get verification, like only accept PII from well-established, or PII changes from well-established IP addresses, reject mobiles, make them do it from a computer that make, know that the computer is on a network, because even if they're using VPN technologies as fraudsters, it's still going to be a pattern that you can recognize. So you can get the last good login with an IP address like John was showing, and you can keep that data on hand to say, we're only going to verify personal information changes based on good known combinations of know your customer. And IP address is just one of them.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot more to it. So let's get into seeing if anybody else has experienced. I love that, Ty. I completely agree. But I really wanted to use this also just to see what others are experiencing. So
I think Tanya had something, John. Tanya
yeah,
Holland.
Tanya. Go, Tanya.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Mike and John. So we're a Mahalo shop with Jim Stickley's Mahalo solution. Been really happy with it. But this past August, what everyone else is saying became very targeted here at Parkview. So they would spoof the number, they'd call. We have a very trusting member base, like I'm sure many of you do. And they were giving up the codes, even though the messages say not to. So Mahalo released credential assurance technology, and I see Blue Eagles on the call. I know they're a Mahalo shop as well. And that first allowed us to at least mitigate it. And one of the pieces, I'm going to put it in the chat, one of the pieces that was part of that Mahalo enabled is, instead of having one code that's 6 digits, it's a separated 3-digit code twice, and we can fully customize the text. So if you're not under attack, this might be a really light message. We are. So our message is very clear, like, don't be a victim. We're never going to ask for this. Only a scammer will. And we found that this split code does allow some members to pause, but not all. Some are still saying, I just really thought it was you. And so Stickley on security outside of Mahalo is working on a solution that I've been betaing with Jim, where, kind of, Ty, you mentioned this, it's going to be looking at your IP history. Are you coming in on Android all the time? And then it switches to iPhone.
Anything that is an anomaly.
Those anomalies. And so, well, you could still get in, because John, I might give you everything and I might give you that code. You might get in, but if it sees you coming from your hometown, you're not going to be able to get to anything external. So wires is going to literally not show up. External payments,
that's
P2P,
a good idea.
bill pay. That's right. So we're really excited. So for the handful that we can't stop with all the other added MFA layers, they're going to get in and be stuck.
Another thing you can add to the list if you want, if you're looking for like different things, I got about 6 of them. One of them is you could tell when I could tell the difference between when a scammer was using the forgot password and it was a normal, because there was a lot of extra time between there and the validation, because they had to get on the phone with the member. So the distance of that was another one. Another one that's really important that you could throw at Stickley if you want is these guys were using a script that would skip over things they didn't want to go to. So a normal login will always take you and drop you off at this page. And it's a very, very constant pattern in any home banking product. The scripts actually are using the login, getting the token, the cookie, and then they jump to a page they want to go. In this case, it was my settings. That's where they wanted to be because they immediately wanted to be able to go in and change that. So anything that falls out of the pattern of what a normal flow is for it is either going to be a aggregator, which is easy to spot, or it's going to be a bad guy. The next one after that, we noticed, besides the IP addresses, as you point this out. So if you look at those, if I go back and bring that screen up, the user agents are very easy to see that they are a simulation of a phone on a T-Mobile network. And so the user agent actually has that it's a simulator in the user agent itself. So the user agent is like the fingerprint of every browser or app that connects to your home banking. So those were all some extra things. I probably got like 10 more, but thank you for sharing that. So you saw it too. When did it start? Do you know what was the
It
earliest?
started in August and it
Oh,
goes
there,
in,
2023?
it goes in phases. So when we would implement a new security measure, they'd go away for a couple weeks and regroup and then
Yeah.
come back with a new tactic. And it's a cat and mouse game. Jim's like, they're never leaving you now because now they're just having
Yeah, they got
fun.
money out of you, so they're not going to give up
No,
easily.
well, and we're making it a game. No, we don't mean to, but we
Right,
keep
you're
adding
gamifying
players.
it.
And
Yeah.
I will say, if you did try to come in right now and I gave you everything, you would not be able to change password because it knows you aren't supposed to be there anyway. So
Wow.
those features will natively be
Well,
disabled.
and I love your point. I mean, I've said this for years. It was part of the WRG product years and years and years ago. If this is your first time logging in from Afghanistan, maybe you don't need to be able to change your password or transfer any money.
That's correct.
If this
Yeah.
is the first time ever that you've logged in from, a Macintosh and you have been a PC user for 10 trillion years, maybe, and Linux is the big one. But they're getting better at spoofing that. And this is a cat and mouse game. And I think what's up in the ante is AI. And so, I think they're able to write the code faster. I think they're able to use it to predict bin numbers out of credit cards. I think that's how they were getting the debit, as they're predicting the bin. That was something we were talking about yesterday with Pete Nolte from Vibrant. He's actually working with the guys from Pfizer because we know for a fact they can predict the next good card based on the previous bin, which we got to fix that. We can, and these a modulus is not encryption. It's just a math problem. So we got to figure that out. Who else has got one? Somebody else. I bet
Tanya.
everybody here
Thanks.
has got one. Who? What, Mike?
I said, good stuff, Tanya. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I just didn't even thank her.
I think look at Albert Howard.
We're done with you now, Tanya. I'm moving on. No, that was awesome. Thank you. Who else has got one?
I got one real quick.
Yeah.
So
Well, who are you? I don't even
yeah.
know how you're here. You look like a bad guy.
Who are you? What's your name?
You look
and where are you
exactly
from?
like a packet
is it the
stealer or a
haircut?
hacker.
No, but to be honest, I heard a very scary one. So I truly believe in reverse verification, which is why I never answer a call coming in from my bank or my credit union. I always, if I do answer, I hang up. I tell them I'm going to call back. I'm going to hang up and I call back. That's my best way of reverse verifying. Problem is, I had two different credit unions come and tell me that they actually had their carrier attacked and they changed the forwarding address. So when members would call the 800 number, it would actually go to the fraudster instead of the credit union themselves. And not sure.
And then they could just pretend to be the MSR or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, if I dial,
give me your social security number. I can't find you in the system. We're gonna have to use some more. What's your blood type?
Right. And I don't know if they had a solution to it. I mean, they certainly pursued it with their carrier, but they were put on hold. Just kind of dragged along. And I don't know what control you have to stop that in the future either. Not sure if anybody else here has experienced that.
Yeah, and Milan, it's interesting. Tell a little bit, just so if people don't know who you are and why you might know this from a bunch of different companies, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we're Illuma. We do biometric voice verification for credit unions, primarily members calling into contact centers. We help verify the voice print. In this situation, there's really nothing we can do because the phone call never reaches the contact center. Which is why, a couple of folks came and approached us on, hey, I'm experiencing this problem. Can you solve it? And I figured the only way we do it is if we could deploy our solutions at the T-Mobiles and the Verizons, and we're not there yet. Right?
Well, there might be another idea that where, almost like the old picture of something that they would have on the screen that, so you're talking to the actual credit union, but I'll have to come back to it.
Milland, I'm just curious on that example you gave. You said it's happened to a couple of credit unions. Was it at the same carrier? So was it a flaw in the carrier system that allowed them to break in, or how did you do we trace it back?
No, I believe these were both two different carriers.
Ah.
I shouldn't share, details of the credit unions themselves, obviously, but they were two different carriers. And all I'll say was, I think this was an attack. The commonality here was they both had, pretty large average account sizes. So the effort required for that type of attack was probably worth it to the fraudster.
So the
And
target was to the credit union, not the vulnerability wasn't residing at the carrier. They could go into, they were agnostic as a carrier, it sounds like.
no, so what I was told was the fraudsters would call the carrier and pretend to be a senior executive at the credit union who had access to their telephony account and
Aha.
ask them to change the forwarding for the 800 number
Oh,
because we've opened up a new branch or something like that, and convince them to make the change.
I hate when
So
these things are so brilliant in an evil way.
yeah,
Yeah, why bother calling all the members and spoofing when you could just change the phone number and route them all to you?
right.
Let's talk. I want to hear a little bit about what ATM One is doing. He said they're working on real-time fraud solutions. One interesting thing that Gary didn't mention was when they were creating copies of the cards, for some reason, they sent a dude all the way out to Juana and Astoria from New York to go and access the ATMs directly. And I still can't figure out why. I don't know why the on us would have been important to them unless they're just idiots, but they wound up catching him. He's in jail. So I was just curious.
I was
But
going to ask about that too. I
yeah, I
mean,
wanted to see what
does it
Albert
come
says
down to
about that.
does it come down to trust? That was the guy they trusted?
He's like, hey, I know the best way to do this. I'll go to the source and hopefully they won't be waiting there for me.
Yeah.
What you got, Albert?
Yeah, no. So thanks, John. Mike, good to see y'all. So as you guys know, we've got three companies. One is an ATM company, which is A1 ATM. Been part of these meetings for a few years now. Mini Branch is our digital connection platform. ITM features without the ITM costs, all those things. But on the ATM side, that was something that we kept seeing constantly, and it's like, guys, there's got to be a way that we can create a solution that alerts everybody across the country if we start identifying a pattern, an area, geographical location, knowing that it's making its way from Northeast down to Florida or something. And so that was actually something. In fact, if I can share my screen, I'll just show you kind of what it is we put together. Looks like I'm able to. This has cost and everything, John. So this is something maybe for nothing else, give you ideas in terms for the credit union side. So some of the things that we had looked at in building was just a simple form that it didn't matter from any ATM, period, any ATM company. It was a monthly subscription. So any of the ATM companies that want to be a part of it would pay monthly. It would give them a specific login where they can access in real time any different patterns to identify any kind of patterns that were happening. So just a simple online form, keyword and geographical search filters, mobile responsive. In terms of support, hosting and PCI compliant servers, blah, blah, blah. Optional features was going to go to the demographics. So the cost of all of this turned out to be $9,500. The company that we ended up using, turned out to, they have the experience, works in the ATM industry, brilliant young lady that's leading all of this. But it was a mapping interface that could be enhanced to include real-time demographic data, just so you can search it based off of zip code, county, state, anything like that. A second locator UX that shows all events at once nationwide, and then just a spreadsheet data output, to be able to pull it through like a CSV and those types of things. So, John, I want to obviously share this with you, and for nothing else, to give you some ideas that some things maybe you could implement on that credit union side, because I think it's brilliant, and I certainly think that any credit union would be interested in that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hit Milan. I think he should sponsor it with us. We'll call it "See You Scams" by Aluma and Big. But
So,
no, I agree.
So
think,
John, I did have one suggestion I wanted to add to the group, and it would require you talk to your digital banking providers. But if I'm understanding everybody here, you've got people using phone number spoofing to get control of a person's digital banking, where they get control of the credentials that change so that they can steal. Well, there are two pieces of data involved that are available via digital banking, whether it's on a computer or a phone, that you could ask your digital banking providers to, use, and that's the notion of registering devices so that you're also aware of their IMEI number on the phones and MAC address if they're on a computer. Now, those can be spoofed too, but somebody doing this fraud from the phone will never know what the member's IMEI or MAC addresses are. So in addition to IP address, those are two that the technology exists, and it's really a simple implementation. So I would encourage everybody here to go back to whoever their digital banking provider is and say, I want device registration that's capturing those two pieces of data, and then only allowing changes from registered IMEIs and registered MACs.
Yeah, that's definitely an option as well. And we used to collect all the extended data. All right, Michael Jackson. I know you guys, I remember hearing from you, I think at the CEO thing. Aren't you guys experiencing some of this as well?
From the fraud side, not too much from the fraud side, actually.
Interesting.
I mean, we might be in a now you're putting me on, and I've got to knock on a lot of wood apparently. But we may be, just because of our size and our geographic area, we might have a slight advantage there. But yeah, from the digital banking side, everything has been pretty good right now.
All right. Let's see, who else? How about Jim? Anything going on in your neck of the woods, Jim? Yates.
No, we haven't seen, we see it once in a while, but again, because of our size, we don't see this sort of orchestrated event like a lot of people have seen.
Well, it's funny. The Cranian, Gary's Cranian isn't bigger than yours. I would say you two are, sort of equal. I think it's coming. That's my point, is I think that they've realized, I think AI has done something that they could never do before, where previously they would have to go and if you want a lot of money, let's go shoot an elephant, because we just shoot it once, we drag it back, we're good. But AI is giving them a tool now where, because it's, before it was too hard to shoot a whole bunch of rabbits, it just, you had to go track them down and they were everywhere. But AI is letting them just carpet bomb the rabbits. And it was interesting because Gary, didn't you talk to Ron? Didn't you talk to a Cranian nearby? And I talked to Willamette, which is, we've had him on before, Central Willamette, which is Joey's credit union. And the CEO was at GAC, Stacy, I think her name is. And she was saying that she saw similar things. And they're all in Gary's neck of the woods. So I'm wondering if that's regional, and that might be a Jim. So I guess coming to a town near you soon, or maybe they're just afraid of people in Wyoming. I wouldn't blame them.
Right. We're all armed. So
you're all armed. Yeah. You can either arm, you have the right to bear arms or arm bears, whichever you want.
Right. Exactly.
All right. So
if I can go back to one of the first points, I'm curious, in kind of that evil brilliance kind of category. You mentioned the Trojan horse, maybe Trojan horse isn't the right word, but the games you said that were probably out there on the App Store, were those just set up as fake games just as a means to drain the account? So that was the way that the fraudster would come in. They would have, so I mean, there's always that question about what Apple gets for their 30% margin.
Oh, hell yeah. They're getting their money as part of this because it goes right through Apple Wallet. And yeah, that's actually what Pete was talking about. And Pete's supposed to be writing this up. He was actually supposed to be here today, but he wasn't able to make it. But yeah, Pete's supposed to be writing this up because,
I'm thinking not only does Apple get that 30% of that cut, but they, in theory, fell down on the job of actually validating that this deserves
to be in the App Store in the first. Like, this is the most success. I didn't realize it was going to cost $60,000 to play Stake Apple. This is great.
So, I mean, does that imply that their vetting isn't doing the job? How did those, and then they just like close up shop the second they do it and they shut down that app?
Once they're reported, they just make another one under another company and get another app developer. It's only $100.
Yeah.
And some of the smaller stuff now, they're automating and that's Apple. Google is the wide open universe. Anybody can put anything in there. Nobody's looking at anything. just goes out there. There's software that is out there to look at things, but it's all over the place. Hey, Rob.
Because of that, was it heavier on Google Android devices than on iPhones?
I actually want to say yes, that's true. Gary, I think it was more Google Wallet than it was Apple Pay, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
The other thing too was that the criteria for adding, so we had just flipped over to PSCU, what, like 3 months before or 4 months before?
Yeah.
So they had eased up the criteria for adding the cards to the wallets in order to facilitate the reissue of moving from their previous provider to this provider. So that may have had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, there were a few examples where the fraudsters were able to, because they had enough PII, they were able to actually call into PSCU and change the PIN.
So I was going to save this for the last one, but I'll close out with this before we get to the wheel. There was one other thing I saw that scared the crap out of me. And what that other thing was, is that we noticed a trend that they were, so weirdly enough, the WANA uses NCR, and for their PFM, it looks like you use MX, which is weird because, you know, the whole digital insight solution was supposedly, and Intuit was all about PFM, but whatever. So anyways, we noticed an uptick in going to those PFM in the thing. So what a PFM is that I think most people know this, but just in case you don't, it's the product where you could go in, let's say you have an account at, you know, Bank of America or Wells Fargo. You could go in, put in your username and password into the WANA home banking, and it would retrieve the balances and the information from that account and show it to you inside of the world of WANA and home banking. So the first issue was, okay, are they now going to see where these other accounts are and maybe hope that they have the same passwords? That was our first concern. But then I noticed something else. They were adding accounts. And because NCR doesn't track what those accounts are, I haven't got the report yet. My fear is they're not adding accounts related to the member. Now, go with me here. Let's say you wanted to case a whole bunch of accounts, but you wanted to hide yourself. So MX does not look at the password or the username or any of the data on the account to decide whether it's yours. It just, if you get by the MFA and you know a username and password, then it's connected. It could be Mike's account and my account. It's not going to know. So if I wanted to go hit a bunch of accounts, but I didn't want you to find me, I could go in there, add them there, get back the balances. Here's the thing. We found 154 accounts, but only 64 of them they messed with. I know why they didn't mess with the other ones, because they didn't have any money in them. They were a waste of their time, which tells me that, you know, they don't have a targeted list. They just had a bunch of accounts. So if it is that they're going to use MX or something else to actually go and look for that, it's going to make it basically a needle in a needle stack to find, because it's already hard enough for us to sort what's happening with aggregators out. That's the next thing that made me a little afraid, is both of those instances. So if you have PFM, I would look at that. And then the other thing is, if you have that thing where, let's say I know a member number, Mike, and I know your last name, some Crayons do this, then I can make a transfer to you. I can't pull, but I can push, right? Okay, turn that crap off now, because they're just going to use one of them, get it all into a mule account, and do one, you know, snake apple, you know, game play to get their money up to, you know, the 250,000 mark. So make sure you're watching those and watching for the upticks. But it's not specifically related to MX at all. That's just one company. But this idea of using PFM to basically case the joint of an account makes a lot of sense to me. Anybody else see anything like that out there? And do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right, now if everybody will just put their username and their password and a link to their own banking in the chat, I promise I'll go in and make sure you're safe. Yeah, me and Mike will go through them all.
You can get a recording of this presentation for $19.99.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can't thank you guys enough for sticking around. Michael Jackson says 1, 2, 3, 4 password. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the first thing I would have tried. Yeah. Oh, your picture ID. That would be good. All right. So it's time to get to the wheel. We might get done a little
Oh, the
early today.
wheel.
Let's do the wheel. Let's wheel it up.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to be entered that has not been entered yet?
Yeah, I want that thermos that melts through my dashboard, my car.
Also, while we're waiting, I
I think you
pull it
just
up.
if you just go to if you go to Arizona, any thermos will do that.
That's
you can
true.
just use a
That
normal
is true.
thermos.
I think your car will just melt if you go to Arizona.
Yeah, it's like Chernobyl. It's melting to the core of the earth.
I found Glenn's slide, so I will put that up real quick.
There he is.
There
Oh
we
my
go.
God.
I have this in my house because we had some mice, and they're
Right
all
above your
gone now.
fireplace.
Yeah, they're
It's
gone
not
now.
supposed to be for one-time use.
No, it should be
Yes.
every time now. Every time we should have that. Great picture, Glenn. Good picture.
All right, and now I will bring up the wheel.
All right. Well, again, we'd like to thank William Mills and the group for sponsoring our giveaway. You can see we got a few people in here. This is the funnest part. I always enjoy this.
I love the logo in the
Right.
middle right there. Looks good.
Yeah.
Goes round and round.
All
right,
right, here we go.
Let's spin it. Well, we have to learn the will of the wheel.
The suspense is killing me.
Jim,
Melissa,
no.
Melissa, Jim, Melissa,
Melissa.
Woo!
Where's Melissa? What crate is Melissa with? She could unmute or she could put it in the chat. Either way. She won't say. She's like, I'm not with a credit union. I was just listening so I could learn how to hack. Blue Eagle Credit Union. That's right. Awesome. Well, welcome. And thank you. You've been here. I've actually seen you many times. Thank you so much. And we hope you enjoy your thermos. And Milan,
make sure,
we'll talk about the scam thing.
Melissa, make sure you provide us with your contact information so we can get back to you.
Including your network login credentials.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. There's no way we could send this to you without your home banking login.
Exactly.
And
no. I wanted her credit union network login credentials. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's even better.
There
Smarter.
you go.
That way you could get all the home banking logins. I don't need that. I just need this.
And all sponsored by William Mills. Yes.
William Mills. If you have is your credit union too safe? We could help you. We could reduce that for you.
New
all right.
time.
I'm going to give everybody back 11 minutes of their day. Thank you always.
This was awesome, John.
Us.
Well done, man. That was really good.
Yeah, we're gonna do this more often too, because I think this needs to be more of a regular thing.
Yeah.
I think it's been super helpful for people. I want to say, Tanya, I'd love to have her report back and tell us, how that worked of the new stuff that the folks at Mahalo are putting in, and also thank you for sharing. And it sucks that they're just coming after you. I know. Like I spent, I don't know what, Gary, like literally, I think I put in 16 hours in 2 days because it took me that long to wind it because I was trying to...
You're fading, John. You're fading, man.
The other problem, just to throw it out there before I leave, just an idea. Have a form. When this happens, get a form and get it built so that everybody knows. So get a form, like use any kind of form and make them fill it out every time every time somebody calls in. If they're all filling out the same information, you have much better chance of figuring out what's going on. The hardest part of actually unwinding this was just getting everybody together and going, look, we need to have a form. You need to ask these questions every time of every person, because I was getting conflicting. Oh, I talked to them and they said this, and I talked to them and they said this. And so if you get something consistent and make all the staff or anybody that interacts with them fill it out, your life will be a lot easier trying to figure out what's going on. Oh yeah, maybe buy a Luma. That might help you be safe. That's my 2 cents.
That too.
Milan would sell it to you. Yeah, that's deep fake me. Hey, I could show you a new deep fake. I'll have to do that sometime.
I think we've been down that road a couple of times, John.
Dude, I posted something on my Facebook. Just so you know, I posted a song I wrote with using AI. You go, for those of you who are my Facebook friends, if you're not, hit me up, I'm fine. But it is so good. I was surprised. It took me about, I don't know, 10 minutes. I had to work with it, tell it the key I wanted it in. I'm really surprised at how good it turned out. These things are getting better exponentially faster than I ever thought they could.
So were you Edward Van Halen or what were you doing?
It's a sad song about my pending divorce.
Oh.
You'll enjoy it. It's a country
Okay.
song.
I'll go check
All
it out.
right. Enjoy. It's called The Open Road. It's about me and my dog Shanti. You'll like it.
Can't wait.
You're on my Facebook, nerd. All right, I'm out. Everybody have a great day.
Bye, guys.